So should Wimby and Cornet start together?
You are Locked On Spurs, your daily San Antonio Spurs podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Welcome back to Locked On Spurs. We're in the Locked On NBA Network. I'm your host, Jeff Garcia, Spurs writer for Kings 5 San Antonio. Glad to have you all back. Hope you're having a great day. As always, thank you all for making Locked On Spurs your first listen each and every day. Free and available wherever we get podcasts, iTunes, Spotify, Kings 5 Plus app, YouTube. You know what to do. What's that? Subscribe right now. Continue being those everydayers. What are we talking about today? We're going to look at Wimby and Cornet. Spurs got themselves some quality back, just bigs in general. I mean, I think we mentioned Kelly Olynyk, even Bismack Biyombo, but Cornet seems to be the guy in sights as the primary backup to Wimby. But should he remove, well, the team should remove that backup label for Cornet and start him alongside Wimby. Twin Towers Part 2, maybe. And then we'll get into some Locked On Spurs fan comments. Let's go to bring in our guest, or should I say the very patient guest, Raul Dominguez of the AP Sports. Everybody behind the scenes, I had some major tech issues, major ones, and we were this close to just maybe doing all audio, but I got it to work. Thanks in large part to Raul being very, very patient with me. Thank you, Raul.
No problem. So it's a new laptop. They want you, I think he said he bought a new laptop. I think they want you to buy another new laptop. So.
I know, right? I know. Well, he can spend for this. This is going to spend for that now. That's what they're probably thinking. As always, make sure to follow him on X at Dominguez5. Do that right now, especially with the season right around the corner. A few preseason games, but then the real deal gets going. That's where you got to follow Raul ASAP. All right, Raul, let's go to dive into it. Don't want to take up too much more of your time after waiting for me for a while to get things going. But, the Spurs bring in the backup big for Wemby, and it's a seal of approval. Couldn't think of a better guy to back him up. Experience with the Knicks, championship experience with Celtics. So the Spurs, in theory, on paper, Raul, should not see any significant drop-off once Wemby takes a breather and Cornet comes in to, give Wemby a breather. But there is a trend of thought, Raul, that maybe, just maybe, bringing back a twin tower look of Cornet and Wemby should be the way to go when the ball goes up in the air and the starting five are on the court. What do you think about Wemby and Cornet starting together?
I think it might be good, like against some teams in certain situations. I think if they play OKC and OKC starting Hartenstein and Chet, I can definitely see them doing that. But I don't think it's something that they should do consistently, just because I just think that having Cornet come off the bench is going to be a big boost to that second unit, and it's going to also sort of maintain the the defense, the rim protection. I think once Wemby gets off the court, that's what they struggled at, especially last year. We know when they didn't have another big man. Once Wemby, it was almost comical when Wemby would go off the court. Guys would just start driving to the rim. Like as soon as he took a step off, they were like driving on the court and driving to the rim. So I think having Luke come in as and replacing Wemby on the court is going to be a big boost to that second unit. I think it's going to help them out. He's going to provide the rim protection. He's going to help them out defensively. So I think in certain situations, but I don't think it's a good idea long term.
Yeah, I agree with you. If they're playing against the big boys, like Joker, for example, and Wemby's getting his lunch money taken from him because Joker has done that to Wemby many a time. Whichever's done that to everybody practically, but he definitely gives Wemby the biggest fits. Why not, take away that element that Denver may have and then switch off with Cornet and give Wemby the break. I do agree with you, though. I think Cornet should primarily be the backup because, not to say anything bad about Olynyk or Bismack, but, Bismack is still kind of undersized at his position if they're going to do the five. And then for Olynyk, he's a big boy, don't get me wrong, but he likes to play a little bit more on the perimeter. Definitely has a back to the basket game, but you need a banger, you need a big man out there. You go with Cornet, and that's why he should come off the bench with that second unit. And speaking of the second unit, Raul, let's just go down that road. A second unit of Cornet, Keldon, Harper, possibly Sohan or Vassell. I mean, that's potent. So why even mess with that? Because if you bring in that unit to give the first unit a break, I can see teams just scoring on them and closing any gaps that Spurs either have a lead or Spurs getting a worse deficit. Your thoughts?
Yeah, and be some consistency because Cornet has a game that's kind of similar to Wemby, so it can help with the consistency. And I know last season Mitch liked to have times when Wemby would play with the second unit. This might allow him to play Wemby with the second unit, and then have Cornet play with the starters, depending on situations. So I think this gives them a lot of continuity. Like you're saying, like Olynyk's a heck of a backup, but I see Olynyk more as a complementary piece for Cornet and Wemby.
Yeah, I'm with you there too. I think, and also too, let's not forget, Cornet definitely brings a different dimension with his ability to spread the floor a little bit better than maybe Wimby and Cornet can. And so there's that. You want to keep that element on the bench as well. But there is something to be said, though, about having him start. You know what? Let's take a break. Let's talk about that. Like, why are the pros? What are the pros for Cornet starting? Yeah, let's talk about that right here on Locked On Spurs with Raul Dominguez of the EP Sports. You want to follow my next at Dominguez Cinco? Do that right now.
The NFL season is here, and FanDuel is making sure you're ready for kickoff with a can't-miss offer. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets used across the app. You'll love FanDuel because it just fits everything you need. You can build a same-game parlay, do player props, jump into live action as the action unfolds. Make every moment more exciting, whether you're watching your team or just keeping an eye on your fantasy lineup. Quick, easy, the best way to add a little more energy to Sundays. Cowboys have started their season. Texans are starting their season, so might as well jump on FanDuel right now. You ready to play? Download the FanDuel app right now by visiting FanDuel.com to get started. That's FanDuel.com to place your first $5 bet.
We're back right here on Locked On Spurs, joined by Raul Dominguez of the EP Sports. He is on X at Dominguez Cinco. Follow him right now. Great follow, especially with the Spurs season right around the corner. We're talking about Cornet and Wemby. Should the pair start? Now, in the first segment, we said it's a nice thing, but you still want to keep them that second unit, make that reserves team just much stronger. No knock on Bismack or Olynyk, but Cornet, Keldon, Harper, and possibly Sohan or Vassell, just whoever. I mean, that's a potent team coming in to give the starters a rest. But let's go down the road of why it could work. And obviously the big reason is defense. We've heard during media day that they're going to use that as an anchor. Defense is their anchor. So why not set the tone early versus teams? Let's set the tone versus opponents that dare to even go into the rim, go towards the paint, anything like that, than having two big boys waiting for them at there. It also allows maybe for Wemby playing more of that 4 spot that he obviously prefers. We all know that statistically he plays better with the 5, but we see him plenty of times floating off away from the paint, trying to hit a 3, trying to dribble drive, face-up game, whatnot. So why not have Cornet there? And maybe that might expand Wemby's game a little bit more. Let Cornet be the that stopper in the middle, that rim protection, because statistically he's one of the better ones among other reserve bigs when it comes to paint and rim defense. So what about that twin tower look? Do you think it can work?
I think it definitely can work because Cornet's such a dynamic player. I mean, he's he can mold his game. I mean, he played with Kristaps and Horford at times on the court at the same time. You kind of see it in some of the footage from practices where Cornet and Wemby are on the same squad. When they're having their runs, and I think there's one video out there where Wemby sort of drops off a little pass to Cornet as he's cutting the pass to the rim for a layup. I can't remember if it's a layup or a dunk, but. They're both great passers. They're both very unselfish. I think Cornet understands how to work with another big man. So I think it definitely can work. And again, I always OKC is obviously the standard bearer for the league right now. And again, you see what they did with Hartenstein and Chet Holmgren. I believe it was Chet and Hartenstein, and then Jalen Williams, SGA, and then Lou Dort. Maybe you could see something like that with the Spurs, at times. Kornet and Wemby, and I know a lot of people have sort of the dream scenario of maybe Castle, Fox, and Harper out there. I mean, that would be an incredible lineup.
Absolutely.
It could definitely work just because of Kornet and because of his adaptability. Not a guy that requires the ball, not a guy that demands the ball. Is a guy that knows how to play alongside a big man.
Sure.
He's done it before, and he's a great guy, really funny too, very unselfish. So I could see him on the court, allowing Wemby to be Wemby, and sort of, hey, where do you want me to go? What do I need to do in order to make Wemby, shine more?
Yeah, exactly. And but even though we're talking about this aspect of it, why they should start together, I still think again that a reserve role is better, not just for Kornet or maybe for Wemby, but I just like to see, why do you want to put more risk on your insurance plan if he's starting? So for example, he gets more minutes, increase chances of injury, knock on wood, nothing happens. Wemby, for the most part, he's played a relatively clean game in his first 2 seasons, but then there's foul trouble. Do you want Kornet to get into early foul trouble? And then Wemby gets into foul trouble. Then what do you do? Look, they're going to get fouls. It happens, it's just part of the game. But why not separate the two? And, Wemby gets in foul trouble early, Kornet come in. But if they're both on the court and they both get foul trouble, again, no knock on Olynyk or Bismack, but, it's not that much of a drop-off, but it is still a drop-off in the bigs, nevertheless. And also, too, there's a part of me that likes Kornet coming off that bench because of that championship pedigree that he has. Bringing in, steadying the ship. Harper, if he comes off the bench, he's obviously a rookie. He might have some moments where he'll need some guidance on the court. Again, not saying anything about Keldon, because Keldon is a veteran now, or Sohan or Vassell or whoever else comes off that bench. But Kornet, been there, done that a little bit more. Has a little bit more experience beyond the regular season. I think that'd be valuable for the second unit. Ultimately, you mentioned it in the first segment here, Raul. You do see it happening, though, right? In certain situations. So against bigger teams like maybe Denver, I can see it against Dallas. And once Gafford gets back, I mean, that's still Anthony Davis, Gafford, Lively. That's kind of a big team there.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
No, I was going to say, Mitch, I'm really high on Mitch. I think fans are going to see him just do a great job coaching wise, but I can see him changing the matchups and stuff. But the other thing I was going to say, as far as with both of them starting, early last season they started Wemby and Zach, and it didn't work out.
Right.
I think it had partially to do with Zach was not the kind of big man that was used to sort of being on the perimeter or playing that type of role with another big man. But the other thing was once they made that switch and put Wemby at center, Wemby thrived. I mean, I think it also had to do with the fact that Wemby, if there's not another big man in there, he's able to sort of move a lot more freely defensively. He can go in the paint. He can, guard someone on the perimeter. I think Wemby just likes being a bit more active. And I think with the big man, at least, last season with Zach, I think that sort of stifled him a little bit. Like he was as free to do what he wanted to do. He wasn't able to be as active. I think he was sort of, making sure that there was no sort of clutter between the two of them. But I just feel like Wemby likes being the one big man out there, just because he's able to do so much more. And he's almost like one of those guards that defensive guards, almost like a Pat Beverly type, where he just loves guarding and defending as many people as he can, and just running around the court trying to just.
Now, I'm gonna kind of still sticking with the big talk here. I'm gonna flash this guy's picture on screen right now. Tell me what you think. How do you see him fitting in? How do you see Olynyk fitting in? Just primarily off that bench, but he is a stretch big.
Mm-hmm.
He could prove valuable on a starting unit or maybe increase minutes. How do you see Olynyk filling in all this?
Yeah, I think with Olynyk, I think you may even see Kelly like start some games as well.
Yeah,
We're talking about as far as with Cornet, maybe keep Cornet in the second unit and start Kelly against some of the some of the big men, some of the bigger lineups rather.
yeah.
I could see him doing that. I think they are between Cornet and Wemby and then Sohan. I think minutes for the bigs may not be a lot, but I know Kelly's going to bring a lot to the team.
Oh, for sure.
So I think initially, I think it may be Mitch and the Spurs staff trying to figure out exactly how to use Kelly and when to use him. But and I know that they want to keep Wemby on the court as much as possible. I know Wemby, if Wemby had his choice, I'm sure Wemby would be out there, the entire game.
Mm-hmm.
So I think they're going to figure out a way to work in Kelly, but I could see them starting maybe, you're talking about two big men, maybe starting Kelly and Wemby rather than Wemby and Cornet rather.
Cornet, yeah. Either way, how you spin it, whether it's off the bench or in a starting role for Luke, and the numbers don't lie. You look at last year with Boston, his advanced metrics showed exactly the type of effect that he has on the court. He was a plus 4.2 net rating last season with Boston. So he definitely does good things on the floor, whether that's just known as role setting good picks, rebounding, being a pass, scoring as well. One thing I like to see him do, and I think Mitch may give him the green light, is connect on some threes. Last year in Boston, he didn't attempt anything. He didn't attempt any threes. He didn't need to. But in New York, he attempted a few and he made a few. I think that will be the key for him. If he can really become, obviously I'm not asking him to be Steph Curry, but if he could just have that a reliable pick and pop, a little bit of a mid-range game, hit the occasional three. I mean, talk about a weapon coming off the bench for the Spurs, and that's a guy that's going to back up Wemby. Your thoughts?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, he's got a great shot, great form. I think for one of the games with Boston, I can't remember. I think he hit. I don't remember. There was one game where he hit a lot of threes in one game.
I remember that. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think it was 6 or 7. I think. So
I think it was against the Spurs, wasn't it?
It might have been.
Yeah. He had that almost a career night.
Yeah. So I mean, he's capable of that. I think because of who the Celtics had, there wasn't as many opportunities for him to hit the three, but I'm sure the Spurs are going to ask him to do that as part of his game, and he'll do it. It's Luke is very much a team player, so whatever the Spurs want from him, he's going to do. So I think it'd be definitely good for him to take more threes. Again, as far as the continuity, having a big man that can shoot threes and defend the rim like Wemby, and then he goes off the court, and then you bring in Cornet, who could defend the rim and hit threes. I mean, that's going to be big for the Spurs.
Absolutely, yeah. But Spurs have themselves a quality backup or a damn good pairing partner for Wemby in the paint. Ultimately, though, I think he will spend a bulk of his time next season coming off that bench because you got to spread it out, man. The last thing you need is your insurance policy for Wemby, Cornet, foul trouble, injuries. Increased time on the floor means increased chances for injury. You just don't want that. I do agree with Raul. They'll play conservative. They will start him maybe a couple times if needed, but ultimately expect Cornet coming off that bench. All right, what are your thoughts about this topic? Cornet and Wemby starting together. Let Raul know on X at Dominguez5. Let me know on X at Jeff G Spurs. When we get back, we got time for one Locked On Spurs fan comment. We'll read and react to it coming up right here on Locked On Spurs.
Hey, let's talk about Monarch Money. Most people can't name their financial accounts or even know what they're worth, whether it's 401ks, properties, or investments. And whether you don't have the full picture, you can end up leaving money on the table. That's why there's Monarch Money. It's an all-in-one personal finance tool that brings your entire financial life together in one clean, easy-to-use interface on your laptop or your phone. Monarch is built for people with busy lives. If you've been putting off organizing your finances, Monarch will help you. How about this? Monarch does the heavy lifting. You can link all your accounts in minutes, see clear data visuals, get smart categorization of your spending, and finally feel in control of your money without ever touching a spreadsheet. Hey, can you identify that you're not saving as much as you thought, Monarch can help you. They'll give you a notice of insufficient investment allocation and discover forgotten 401ks from past jobs. Maximizing investments, increasing your savings rate. You can easily review your finances with your partner or financial advisor, keeping a clear view of your financial health week to week and long term. Look, don't let financial opportunities slip through the cracks. Use code LOCKEDONNBA at monarchmoney.com in your browser for half off your first year. That's 50% off your first year at monarchmoney.com with code LOCKEDONNBA.
We're back right here on Locked On Spurs, joined by Raul Dominguez, a.k.a. the Mr. Patient One. Thank you again for Raul for being very patient with me. I had some issues, some really major issues to start this show. But make sure to follow him on X. That'd be a nice way to thank him for that. How's that, everybody? Make sure to follow him on X at Dominguez5. Do that right now. All right, it's time for Locked On Spurs fan comments. And you guys, I can tell you guys are definitely raring for the season because there's a lot of comments that are just starting to fire in. Unfortunately, we can't read them all, so we'll pick one. And here we go. This is from Ralph Almendarez-R6I. Now, Raul, let me set it up here for you. He's reacting to yesterday's Locked On Spurs, where we asked the big question: who in 3 years from now, starting this season and then 2 more years, will be more important to the Spurs franchise, De'Aaron Fox or Stephon Castle? So before we get your thoughts on that topic, let's hear what Ralph had to say. He says it's Fox who will be more important in 3 years, and that Castle could be a fringe all-star, though. What are your thoughts on that? So we got to vote for Fox. I said Fox is going to be more important for the Spurs in 3 years. Where do you stand?
Fox is an amazing player. I think he's going to be the next 3 years. He's going to be a dynamic player. But for me, it's Stephon Castle. I think his he reminds me of Kawhi in the sense of a guy that's offense is that he's building his offense. His offense, I think his offensive game is eventually going to be something phenomenal. I know his jump shot is a little off, but he works on it all the time. The fact that he's able to drive to the rim and he's got that little hesitation shot that which is just money. I mean, see a lot more guys doing that now. And the fact that he's able to get to the free throw line so often. I mean, rookies don't get calls. He continually got calls as a rookie. And then you look at him this year, he's added muscle and the scrimmage, he was when during the scrimmage, I believe it was Kornet was on the court at times, and Castle was still guarding Wimby rather than Kornet. Wow. So Castle wanted to guard Wimby, and there's that one video I think where Wimby puts his shoulder into Castle's chest and he try to bounce off, but then he comes right back. And then I think it was I don't remember if it was the play before or after. Castle's guarding him down low, and Wemby's trying to muscle him, and Castle's not backing down. And trying to forget, how Wemby's obviously very tall, 7 foot forward, but Castle's isn't small either, and he got very big wingspan, and he's got a lot of muscle to him as well. So Wemby was having a little tough time getting past him. So I just think the way Castle is already a dog defensively, and with his offensive game emerging, I think in 3 years, I think he's going to be the most or more important than Fox. It's going to be a good problem to have because they're both going to be important. But I just think Castle's going to be an amazing player. I think Castle's eventually going to be the 2 to Wemby, and I said it before. I think Castle can become a first team All NBA and a first team All Defensive player. So I think in 3 years, with what he has already accomplished, 3 years, he's going to be off the charts. I think he's going to be the most between the two of them. I think he's going to be the most important.
Here's why I went with Fox. One is the fact that the Spurs are either barely coming out of the rebuild or they're just a block away from coming out. And if they do make the postseason this season, and then the following season, and then the third season, that we're looking at the next 3, then go with a guy that at least been there, done that with Sacramento, and they've had deep playoff runs before they blew it up. So that's why I went with him. So that's why I figured, okay, they're going to be in the postseason. So why not extend that season and relying on somebody like Fox with that playoff experience? So that was number one. Number two, he's a proven commodity right now, and he's just barely entering his prime. So he'll be a super prime player in the next 2-3 years, and that much more important for the Spurs. And one of the bigger reasons why I felt that he'll be more important for the Spurs down the road in 3 years is because that's a nice trade chip you could flip. And if Castle is becoming the player that you project he will be, and something's got to give, if you have Castle and you got Harper and you got Fox, you might want to invest in the younger guy, Castle, and maybe be open to trading Fox, getting a haul back, and now start building around Castle and Wimby, possibly Harper. So that's why I feel like I think that for me pushed it over the edge. Is like, yeah, but 3 years from now, if it's not working out or Castle's just really forcing this team to think twice, maybe Fox is the better trade chip than Castle. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, the other thing that I think people need to keep in mind is when De'Aaron was talking about coming to the Spurs, there was a lot of talk that that Sacramento wanted Castle in return.
That's right. Yep.
And Fox said no. Fox said no. I want to play alongside Castle. Like, he didn't want Spurs to trade him. I think that helped. Spurs are going to trade Castle no matter what, but I think having Fox, say that, and sort of help the Spurs with some leverage, So Fox knows how good Castle is and how good he can be. So, Fox wanted to come down and play with Wimby, but he also wanted to play with Castle. And for an all-star, a great player like Fox, to see that in Castle, and then LeBron James also talked about Castle, about how good Castle already was and how much better he can become. To me, it's just like I said, the sky. There's no ceiling for Castle.
You're right.
I think he's going to be just a dynamic two-way player. Something that Spurs haven't seen since Kawhi. And again, I know people don't like hearing that name, but Kawhi was a dynamic player in both ends.
It was.
I think Castle's going to be even better than he is.
Yeah, it's an interesting topic. And again, reflection on the Spurs, Brian Wright, for building a team like this, where you have the next guy up. If maybe the Spurs decide to part with Fox, they want to start building around the Wimby Castle era. Who knows? But for me right now, in the immediate future, short term, which is the next 3 years, I just lean more towards Fox. But I do agree that eventually he will supplant Fox. That will happen, barring anything crazy. He wants out or contract negotiations go south, something like that. But barring that, I think the Spurs will eventually, sooner, maybe rather than later, want to start building around Wimby and Castle. Hey, what are your thoughts? By the way, thank you again for that comment, everybody. But we definitely got to hear your thoughts on this topic. Who do you think will be more important for the Spurs in the next 3 years? Fox or Castle? You let Raul know on X at Dominguez5. Let me know on X at Jeff G Spurs Zone. And Raul, I know you're getting ready for the season. It's right around the corner. I got a few more preseason games to go through and some training camp, but I'm assuming you're raring to go over there with the AP Sports.
Yeah, it's going to be a great season. The scrimmage was, Wimby looked bigger, stronger, more determined, and you look at the roster. A lot of guys were sitting out in the scrimmage. Sohan,
Vassell,
De'Aaron. So you can kind of see the pieces. They're going to fall in place really well. It's going to be an exciting season, I think, for the fans.
I'm right there with you. I think it will be exciting. They got that new fan section, a couple of Jackals. So it's going to be electric in the frost. So make sure y'all go there right now. And by the way, before we put a wrap on this episode, and I don't want to end on a sad note here, but just quickly, thoughts and the prayers go to Tony Parker and his family. In case y'all did not know, yesterday it was reported out in France, and it eventually, I guess, they hit the French version of the AP. I think it's called the AFP over there, Raul. They released a statement from Parker where he did announce that his father, Tony Parker Sr., had passed away at the age of 70. 70, still pretty young there. According to the reports via French media, that it was sudden, and the police are investigating exactly what happened. But yeah, so thoughts and prayers to Tony Parker and his family, and just it was just shocking news. I think that's one thing that Parker said in his announcement, that everybody was just shocked how it just happened.
Yeah. I mean, Mr. Parker was such a gracious man. I mean, always elegantly dressed, and then I always see him, in the arena, and he'd always smile and say hi and hug all the ushers and all the security guards. So always saw him smiling. Fans would see him and he waved to them and smiled at them. So just a gracious man, such a nice man, and then, as far as with Tony Parker himself, like, a lot of people talk about, obviously how tough Pop was on Tony. At any point, Parker Sr. maybe could have said something, but he didn't, because he knew this was good for his son. So, I know we have another relative in the Spurs family that, an uncle that people don't like.
Yeah.
Tony Sr. could have maybe done something similar, but he didn't, because he knew this would help Tony, and so he allowed Tony to develop, and so prayers to their family. A great man, Tony Parker Sr.
Absolutely. So again, thoughts and prayers to Parker and his family. Again, I was just as shocked when the news out in France started coming out yesterday. I was like, no way. I thought that was just one of those fake news things, but no, it was legit. Yeah, and Parker sent a release out. So I'm pretty sure the Spurs will do something for him, or, maybe he'll talk to what happened. But yeah, I never got the chance to meet him, Tony Parker Sr. They were in that Big Three heyday, Tony Parker's time when he took over kind of for Tim Duncan. So I wish I did, but played at Loyola Marymount in Chicago, I believe, and then he played professionally in Europe, overseas. And interestingly enough, though, in the press release that Parker released about his father, he said that his father never really pushed him to be a basketball player, that was all Tony. And then once Tony made the decision, then he encouraged him to go forward. But again, Tony Parker Sr. has passed away at the age of 70. Thoughts and prayers to Tony Parker and his family. Everybody else, we thank y'all for making Locked On Spurs your first and only spot for all things San Antonio Spurs. We got the regular season around the corner. Cannot wait. It's going to be exciting. That's why you got to follow Raul on X at Dominguez Cinco. You can do that right now. He'll have a lot of articles coming out, game recaps, the whole shebang. So make sure to follow Raul on X at Dominguez Cinco. Follow me on X at Jeff G Spurs Zone. Raul, we thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule and being super patient with me. And even being patient with me during this recording, because I have multiple screens going on because of this problem. I have to look over here. I got to look over here. I got to look over there. So thank you, Raul, for being patient with me.
Thank you for having me on.
Yeah, no problem. To everybody else, also real quick note, tomorrow we'll be back with our weekly Project Marvel update. We're going to put into focus Proposition A. Yeah, not only people talk about Prop A, we're talking about that and why it's important. And it does have to, as a hook on the Spurs. You'll find out tomorrow right here on Locked On Spurs. So for Raul Dominguez, I am Jeff Garcia, still trying to deal with all these multiple screens because of the tech issue. We're going to put a lock on this episode of Locked On Spurs.